Dr. Marcus Ramirez wiped the sweat from his brow as he studied the peculiar readings on his geological scanner. After 30 years of archaeological expeditions in the Atacama Desert, he thought he'd seen everything. The world's driest desert had yielded many secrets to him over the decades, from ancient settlements to prehistoric fossils. But this was different. Dr. Ramirez called out his research assistant Raj Patel running across the cracked earth. The ground-penetrating radar results are in, you need to see this. The holographic display showed something massive buried beneath the sand, a perfectly symmetrical object nearly 300 meters long. Its smooth, curved surface defied natural geological formation. "Get me the Chilean authorities," Marcus said, his voice barely above a whisper, "and contact Dr. Diane Wang at the UN Space Administration." Within 48 hours, the remote desert site transformed into a hive of activity. Military cordons established a 5-kilometer perimeter while scientific teams from across the globe arrived in waves. Dr. Wang, a leading expert in theoretical xenoarchaeology, stood beside Marcus as industrial excavators carefully removed layers of sand and rock. "How long do you think it's been here?" she asked, her eyes fixed on the emerging dark surface of what could only be an artificial structure. Based on the surrounding geological strata, Marcus adjusted his glasses. At least 12,000 years, maybe more. The excavation took weeks, but finally the object stood revealed under the harsh desert sun. Its hull was composed of an unknown black material that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. No seams were visible on its surface, yet intricate patterns swirled across its skin like frozen waves. "It's a ship," Diane breathed, touching the hull with a gloved hand. "An actual alien spacecraft." General Thomas Harris of the United Nations Defense Council arrived as teams began setting up research stations around the vessel. "What are we dealing with, doctors?" "Something that rewrites human history," Marcus replied. "This ship predates our oldest civilizations. The question isn't just who built it, it's why they left it here." Sophisticated scanning equipment revealed no radiation hazards, and after extensive testing, a joint international team prepared to enter the vessel. Marcus, Diane, and a select group of scientists and military personnel approached what they had identified as an entrance point. "Remarkable," said Dr. Yuki Tanaka, their materials specialist, examining the door mechanism. "The metal, if we can even call it that, shows no signs of degradation, no rust, no structural fatigue, after thousands of years." The entrance activated with unexpected suddenness, a section of the hull simply ceasing to exist, revealing a dark corridor beyond. The team exchanged glances, their helmet lights illuminating the way forward. Inside, they found technology beyond human comprehension. Rooms that seemed to shift and change when viewed from different angles. Corridors that curved impossibly through space. Control panels made of materials that rippled like liquid while maintaining solid form. "This architecture," Diane said, documenting everything with her camera, "it's not just advanced, it's evolved. Like the ship itself is a living thing." In what appeared to be the bridge, Marcus noticed something unusual. These markings are different from the others. They're newer. Diane examined them closely. Two distinct writing systems, the original builders and... She trailed off as soft lights began pulsing through the ship's corridors. "We need to evacuate," General Harris ordered, but before anyone could move, a holographic display erupted from the central console. Alien symbols cascaded through the air, accompanied by a sound like distant singing. "It's some kind of activation sequence," Diane said, her voice filled with wonder and fear. "The ship, it's waking up." Marcus watched as the symbols coalesced into a three-dimensional star map. "No," he corrected her, his heart racing. "It's sending a signal." In the days that followed, humanity struggled to process the implications of their discovery. As scientists worked to understand the vessel's technology, political leaders debated humanity's response to potential alien contact. The ship's signal continued to pulse outward into space, a beacon announcing its presence to whoever might be listening. What no one yet realized was that someone was already on their way, and they had been searching for this ship for a very, very long time. 3 months after the discovery, the Atacama Research Facility had grown into a sprawling complex of laboratories and living quarters. Dr. Marcus Ramirez stood at his workstation, examining holographic projections of alien text, while Dr. Yuki Tanaka calibrated their translation algorithms. "Look at this pattern," Marcus said, highlighting a sequence of symbols. It keeps repeating throughout the ship's historical logs. I think it's a name Nexarian. The original builders, Yuki asked, adjusting her interface. The characters shifted, attempting to align with known linguistic patterns. Yes, and they were incredible. Marcus pulled up another hologram showing the ship's technical schematics. Their technology wasn't just advanced, it was seamlessly integrated with organic components. The ship isn't just a vessel, it's almost alive. Dr. Diane Wang burst into the lab, her usual composed demeanor replaced with obvious excitement. The engine room, we've done it. You need to see this. They rushed through the facility's underground tunnels to the ship's power core. Inside, soft blue light pulsed like a heartbeat. General Harris and several military officials were already there, watching as technicians worked at newly activated control panels. Dr. Rodrigo's team cracked the basic interface, Diane explained. The ship's systems are starting to recognize human operators. It's adapting to us. Marcus examined the pulsing core. The Nexarians built this ship to be intuitive, to learn from its users, but why leave something so valuable on Earth? Maybe they didn't leave it, General Harris said grimly. Those other markings we found, the second writing system, could indicate someone else found this ship before us. The implications hung heavy in the air. If others had discovered the ship in the past, they might come looking for it again. In Washington, D.C., the United Nations Security Council convened an emergency session. Video feeds showed similar meetings happening in capitals worldwide. The ship's technology had already revolutionized several fields. Medical facilities were testing healing devices that could cure injuries in minutes. Engineering teams had developed new materials based on the ship's hull composition. The applications are endless, Dr. Rodrigo reported to the council via holographic link. The Nexarian power core alone could solve Earth's energy crisis. Their medical technology could eliminate most diseases, but we've barely scratched the surface of what this ship can do. As humanity celebrated these advancements, the first warning signs appeared. Dr. Marcus was analyzing the ship's navigational data when he noticed something strange in the star charts. Diane, look at this, he called to his colleague. The holographic map showed hundreds of worlds, many marked with the same second writing system they'd found on the ship. These aren't Nexarian markers. Someone else has been using this ship's database, mapping territories, marking resources. An empire, Diane whispered, studying the patterns. These are Imperial Survey markers. Someone's been building an empire out there using scavenged Nexarian technology. Their discovery took on new urgency when the ship's deep space sensors activated automatically. Something was moving out there, approaching the solar system at impossible speeds. General Harris immediately ordered increased security around the facility. How many ships? He asked the monitoring team. At least 12 large vessels, reported Captain Jennifer Hayes, their chief sensor operator. Their energy signatures match the secondary technology we found on the ship, not Nexarian, but derived from their tech. In orbit, Earth's newly established defense platforms came online. They were humanity's first attempts at adapting the alien technology for protection, untested but necessary. No one knew if they would be enough. The ship's systems suddenly burst into activity, screens filling with urgent warnings. Marcus and Diane worked frantically to interpret the messages as they appeared. It's some kind of recognition protocol, Marcus said, his fingers flying over the control panel. The ship, it knows these approaching vessels. It's bringing up historical records. The holograms showed scenes of devastation. Worlds stripped of resources, civilizations conquered, all by a species that had discovered and exploited Nexarian technology. They called themselves the Kryloth, and they had spent centuries building their empire on the bones of ancient ruins. We need to power down the ship, General Harris ordered. Stop any signals it might be sending. It's too late, Diane said, pointing to new data streaming across the screens. They're already here. The Kryloth ships have entered the solar system. On screens around the world, millions watched as the alien fleet appeared beyond Mars' orbit. Their vessels were dark and angular, a sharp contrast to the smooth, organic design of the Nexarian ship. Messages began broadcasting on all frequencies in multiple Earth languages. People of Earth, the transmission began, you have something that belongs to us. The Nexarian vessel you have discovered is claimed property of the Kryloth Empire. Surrender it immediately along with any derived technologies. Failure to comply will result in your planet's occupation and resource appropriation. You have 24 hours to respond. In the ship's control room, Marcus noticed something the others had missed. As the Kryloth message played, subtle changes rippled through the ship's systems. New protocols activated, dormant systems came online. The ship wasn't just recognizing the Kryloth, it was preparing for them. I don't think this ship was abandoned, Marcus told the others. I think it was waiting. The Nexarians didn't leave this ship here by accident, they left it here for us to find. The question was, would humanity be ready to use it when the time came? The world's leaders gathered virtually as the Kryloth ultimatum reached its halfway point. 12 hours remained to decide Earth's fate. In the Atacama facility's command center, General Harris watched multiple screens showing military preparations worldwide. The Kryloth fleet has maintained position beyond Mars orbit, Captain Hayes reported, monitoring the sensor data. No additional ships have arrived, but they've deployed smaller vessels for reconnaissance. Dr. Marcus Ramirez burst into the command center, followed by Diane and Yuki. We found something, he announced. The ship's been hiding its true capabilities. On the main screen, he displayed new schematics they'd discovered. These systems were locked behind security protocols that only activated when the Kryloth arrived. The ship isn't just a vessel, it's a key to something much bigger. The holographic display showed a vast network of ancient Nexarian installations hidden throughout the galaxy. The Kryloth didn't just find this ship by accident, Diane explained. They've been searching for it. It's the only vessel of its kind that can access the entire Nexarian network. That's why they're really here, Marcus continued. Not to reclaim stolen technology, but to prevent us from discovering what they've been hiding. The Kryloth Empire was built by systematically looting Nexarian sites, but they've never gained full access to the most advanced systems. The Kryloth commander, Supreme Warmaster Vexer, stood on his flagship's bridge, his scaled skin reflecting the dim light. "Show me the humans' defenses again," he ordered. His tactical officer, Kral, displayed scans of Earth's military installations. They've already adapted some Nexarian technology, Warmaster, crude implementations but advancing rapidly. If we wait much longer, they might become an actual threat. No species advances that quickly, Vexer growled, unless, his eyes narrowed, unless the ship is helping them just as the ancient records warned. On Earth, the response to the Kryloth ultimatum was unanimous. Humanity would not surrender the ship or its derived technologies. But even as the world's militaries mobilized, Marcus and his team made a breakthrough that changed everything. The ship's not just recognizing us as users, Yuki announced, examining new data patterns. It's been actively modifying its systems to work with human neural patterns. The Nexarians designed it to seek out compatible species. Compatible for what? General Harris asked. Before anyone could answer, the ship's systems surged with power. In the control room, previously dark sections of the walls began to glow with intricate patterns. A new chamber opened, one they hadn't been able to access before. Inside, they found what looked like a command center, but unlike anything they'd seen. The controls were oriented for human physiology, despite being thousands of years old. They knew, Marcus whispered. The Nexarians knew they were dying out. They didn't just leave their technology behind, they left it for whoever could use it responsibly. The ship's been testing us all along. In orbit, Earth's defensive platforms detected movement. The Kryloth fleet was advancing, not waiting for their ultimatum to expire. Multiple ships launching from the Kryloth fleet, Captain Hayes announced. Energy signatures suggest weapon systems powering up. General Harris activated the Global Defense Network. All stations, prepare for combat, this is not a drill. But in the ship's new command center, Marcus made one final discovery. These aren't weapon systems, he said, studying the newly revealed controls. They're terraforming tools. The Nexarians weren't warriors, they were builders. The Kryloth have been using their technology wrong all along. Diane's eyes widened as she understood. The ship isn't a weapon, it's a seed. The Nexarians planted these ships on promising worlds, waiting for species that would use their technology to create rather than destroy. The Kryloth fleet launched their first attack, energy weapons blazing across space toward Earth's defenses. But as they did, the Nexarian ship pulsed with new energy. Every piece of technology humanity had derived from it suddenly began working at full capacity. Defense platforms that had been operating at partial power suddenly reached their true potential. Shields that engineers had struggled to perfect snapped into place around major cities. The ship was teaching humanity how to use its gifts properly, not as tools of war, but as implements of protection and creation. Impossible, War Master Vexor snarled as his first wave of attacks dissipated against Earth's shields. No primitive species could master the technology this quickly. War Master, Kral reported, fear in his voice. We're detecting energy signatures throughout their solar system, the Nexarian network it's activating. In the Atacama facility, Marcus watched in awe as new holographic displays showed what was happening. Throughout the solar system, ancient Nexarian installations were awakening, terraforming stations on Mars, shield generators in the asteroid belt, energy collectors around Jupiter. Earth wasn't just receiving a single ship's technology, it was being given keys to an entire solar system's worth of advanced installations. Now we know why they chose Earth, Marcus said. The Nexarians didn't just leave us technology, they left us a test, and we just passed it. The Kryloth fleet faced a choice: retreat or face the very technology they had spent centuries trying to master. But War Master Vexor wasn't ready to give up his prize. Not when he was so close to claiming the one ship that could give him control of the entire Nexarian network. Prepare all weapons, he commanded. We will take what is ours, whatever the cost. The battle for Earth was about to begin, but humanity wasn't fighting alone. They had the legacy of an ancient civilization on their side, not as a weapon but as a gift. The question was, could they prove worthy of it? The first wave of Kryloth ships descended through Earth's atmosphere like dark meteors. Defense platforms around the globe tracked their approach, waiting for the command to engage. In the Atacama facility's command center, General Harris watched alongside Marcus and his team as humanity faced its first interstellar battle. All defense grid stations, you are cleared to engage, Harris ordered. Protect your sectors at all costs. The sky lit up with energy weapons as Earth's defenders met the Kryloth assault. Thanks to the Nexarian ship's guidance, humanity's weapons were no longer crude adaptations, but fully realized implementations of advanced technology. Shields flickered and held against Kryloth bombardment, while ground-based batteries returned fire with startling accuracy. Aboard his flagship, War Master Vexor snarled in frustration. How are they doing this? Their weapons are more effective than our own. The Nexarian ship, Kral reported, analyzing the data. It's not just giving them technology, it's teaching them how to use it better than we ever could. Our own systems are pale imitations by comparison. In the Atacama facility, Marcus and Diane worked frantically at the ship's new control center. The ancient vessel hummed with power, its systems fully active for the first time in millennia. Yuki monitored the energy readings with growing excitement. The ship's power output is increasing exponentially, she announced. It's like it's finally waking up completely. On screens around them, they could see the battle unfolding worldwide. Kryloth drop ships fought with Earth's newly enhanced fighters in the skies over every continent. The alien invaders had superior numbers and centuries of experience, but humanity had something they didn't: the true understanding of Nexarian technology. They don't create, Marcus said, watching the Kryloth tactics. Look at how they fight, it's all about overwhelming force. They never learned what this technology was really for. Captain Hayes' voice came over the command channel. Multiple Kryloth capital ships entering atmosphere, they're targeting major population centers. But as the massive alien vessels descended, something remarkable happened. The dormant Nexarian installations throughout the solar system began to respond. A shield network that had lain dormant for thousands of years activated, creating a protective web around Earth. The Nexarians, Diane breathed, watching the data stream across their screens. They didn't just leave us one ship, they left us an entire defensive network. We just had to prove we could use it properly. War Master Vexor watched in growing horror as his fleet's attacks dissipated against the planetary shields. Impossible. We spent centuries studying this technology. How could these primitives? War Master, Kral interrupted. The Nexarian ship, it's doing something. In the Atacama facility, Marcus and his team felt the change. The ship's organic systems pulsed with new energy, and previously hidden interfaces revealed themselves. The holographic displays showed not just Earth, but the entire solar system and beyond. It's a network key, Marcus realized. The ship isn't just a vessel, it's a control center for the entire Nexarian solar system defense grid, and it's responding to us because we're using it the way it was meant to be used. Through their screens, they watched as ancient orbital platforms around Mars and Venus activated. Stations hidden in the asteroid belt powered up. A vast network of Nexarian technology, dormant for millennia, was coming alive. "Sir," Captain Hayes called out, "the Kryloth fleet, they're pulling back." But Warmaster Vexer wasn't retreating. He was regrouping for an all-out assault. "Prepare the Worldbreaker weapons," he commanded. "If we cannot have the Nexarian legacy, no one will." The Kryloth ships formed new attack patterns, their weapons charging with ominous power. But in the ship's control center, Marcus made a final discovery that would change everything. "These controls," he said, his hands moving across the organic interface, "they're not just for defense. The Nexarians left us something else, something the Kryloth never found." The ship's systems responded to his touch, and new information flooded their screens. Hidden within the vessel's database was the true purpose of the Nexarian network, not just to protect, but to connect. To build bridges between stars and species that were ready to join a larger community. "Look at this," Diane said, pointing to new star charts appearing before them. "There are other ships out there, other worlds where the Nexarians left their legacy. We're not alone in this fight." As the Kryloth fleet prepared their final attack, humanity stood at a crossroads. They had proven they could defend themselves, but now they faced a greater choice: how to use their newfound power. Would they follow the path of the Kryloth, using the technology for dominance, or would they honor the Nexarians' true legacy? The answer would determine not just Earth's fate, but their place in a much larger galaxy. And as Warmaster Vexer gave the order to attack, Marcus and his team prepared to show the Kryloth and the universe exactly what humanity had learned from their ancient benefactors. The Kryloth Worldbreaker weapons charged with devastating power, their energy signatures lighting up Earth's sensor networks like artificial suns. In the Atacama Facilities Control Center, Marcus and his team raced against time to unlock the Nexarian ship's final secrets. "The Worldbreakers are targeting major population centers," Captain Hayes reported, her voice tense. "If those weapons hit, even our enhanced shields won't hold." But Marcus barely heard her. His attention was fixed on the ship's newly revealed systems. The organic interfaces pulsed beneath his hands, responding to his thoughts as much as his touch. "The Nexarians weren't just advanced technologically," he said. "They understood something fundamental about consciousness itself." Diane worked beside him, helping to decode the stream of information. "These aren't just defense systems," she realized. "They're meant to connect minds, to share understanding. The Nexarians didn't want to create weapons, they wanted to create comprehension." Above Earth, Warmaster Vexer watched with savage satisfaction as his fleet moved into final attack position. "Let this be a lesson to all who would deny the Kryloth Empire," he growled. "Fire the Worldbreakers." Massive energy beams lanced toward Earth from a dozen Kryloth vessels. But at that moment, Marcus activated the ship's true power. The Nexarian vessel pulsed with blinding light, and suddenly every human connected to its technology, from the defense grid operators to the fighter pilots, felt their minds expand. Knowledge flowed between them like water. Understanding cascaded through neural networks enhanced by Nexarian technology. In an instant, humanity wasn't just using the ancient technology, they were comprehending it on a fundamental level. "My God," General Harris whispered, feeling the connection himself through the command center's interfaces. "This is what they were preparing us for." The Worldbreaker beams struck Earth's shields, but instead of destroying them, the energy was absorbed, redirected, transformed. Every piece of Nexarian technology on Earth and throughout the solar system began working in perfect harmony, guided by humanity's newly unified understanding. "Impossible," Vexer roared as his weapons failed to penetrate the defense grid. "No species has ever." Warmaster Kral interrupted, fear evident in his voice. "The humans, they're not just defending, they're reaching out." Through the Nexarian network, humanity extended their consciousness toward the Kryloth fleet, not to attack but to share understanding. The truth of the Nexarian legacy cascaded through space. Images of worlds renewed, civilizations uplifted, a galaxy united not through conquest but through shared knowledge and growth. In the ship's control center, Marcus watched in awe as the connection spread. "The Nexarians didn't leave us weapons," he said. "They left us a choice: to repeat the cycle of violence and conquest. Or to break it," Diane finished, "to become something more." The Kryloth ships hung motionless in space as their crews experienced the full impact of the Nexarian vision. Centuries of empire building, of taking and destroying, contrasted sharply with the possibility of creation and cooperation. Stand down the world breakers, Vexer ordered, his voice quiet. For the first time in his long life, he understood how limited his people's vision had been. Open a channel to the humans. Around Earth, the Nexarian network hummed with power and possibility. Ancient terraforming stations began their work on Mars, preparing it for future colonization. Shield generators protected against solar radiation, making space travel safer. Energy collectors gathered the sun's power with unprecedented efficiency. We're receiving signals, Yuki announced, monitoring the deep space communications. From other worlds, other ships like ours, the network, it's alive with activity. They were messages from other civilizations who had found their own Nexarian ships, who had passed the same test humanity just had. Some were centuries ahead in their development, others were just beginning. All of them reached out in friendship, ready to share their knowledge and experiences. In the months that followed, Earth changed rapidly but thoughtfully. The Kryloth Empire transformed, its centuries of conquest giving way to an era of cooperation and restoration. Humanity took its first steps into a larger galactic community, not as conquerors or victims, but as equals. Marcus stood with Diane and Yuki in the Atacama facility, watching the sun set over the desert where their journey had begun. The Nexarian ship, their ship now, pulsed gently behind them, its mission finally fulfilled. They must have seen something in us, Marcus said, thinking of the ancient civilization that had placed such faith in humanity's potential. Something worth waiting thousands of years for. They saw what we could become, Diane replied, looking up at the stars. Not what we were. Above them, the night sky filled with possibilities. The Nexarian legacy had given humanity more than technology, it had given them a future. And as the stars beckoned, Earth's children prepared to take their first steps into a universe far grander and more wonderful than they had ever imagined. It wasn't the end of humanity's story. In many ways, it was just the beginning.